Hi, thanks for getting nerdy with me. It's time once again to get nerdy, and we are doing it with Taylor Swift. And say what you want about Taylor Swift, think what you want about Taylor Swift. The chart is fascinating, and there's so much to cover. I'm not sure if I'm even gonna get it all, but it's really hard right now because she's on a tour that I would think of as a world domination tour that it's hard to miss stuff about her. She's in the media. Every time I open TikTok, I see at least 2 Taylor Swift videos, and that's not content that I particularly interact with all that often. Like, I like some of her songs. If she's playing ambiently in the background, awesome. I like music generally, but I have my favorite things that I like some of her songs. So you can see I feel like medium about Taylor Swift. And if you love her, great. If you don't love her, also fine, because we're talking about energy here. So the first thing that I want to point out about this woman is that she's not only Scorpio rising, but she has Mars in Scorpio on her ascendant. And Mars is the traditional ruler of Scorpio. Pluto's the modern ruler of Scorpio. Pluto is up here in her 12th house. Mars is right on her ascendant, and it is on the conscious side of her ascendant. So she not only is an extremely determined person, because Scorpio, find me a more determined sign than Scorpio. I don't think there is one. Like, I'm sorry, but like, Scorpio will kill themselves to make a point. And I don't mean suicide, although that is also true. So I guess the whole statement is true. But they will run themselves into the ground to prove that they can, especially if someone were to challenge them, and especially with Mars here at the ascendant. By the way, this chart is relatively okay rated on Astro Theme, but I like it. I think it works. And even if we took the ascendant away and said that the birth time is wrong, which I'd have it as 5/17 in Pennsylvania, it still has Mars in Scorpio. But having Mars rising in Scorpio, also for a woman, that's energy that first you can't duck out of. You're always going to be perceived as this Mars person. So even if you think you're being polite, other people are gonna say, oh wow, she's a bitch, she's really fighting to get her way. You're gonna be perceived as this Mars person because the ascendant is how you're perceived. So, you see evidence of this. You see people criticizing her for being so straightforward about what she wants and how she wants things done. And you also see, I think I read an article that quoted her trainer, who helped to train her for her world domination tour, and talked about how physically strong she is. I mean, she's doing 3-hour concerts, and you are literally seeing her sweat, but it doesn't, like, she and Beyonce were the thing last summer. She's still going. Beyonce's not. And no shade to Beyonce. I would never do that. I'm not an idiot. But you kind of get my meaning, right? So the other interesting thing about this chart is that she is also embodying the Capricorn Cancer split that was happening in 1989, and her moon is involved, but her sun is not, and Venus is not. So she's got this chunk of Capricorn here and this chunk of Cancer energy here, and I'm kind of including Chiron, kind of not. But 8th house, 2nd house, 8th house, 2nd house splits usually, first and foremost, are about money and people's resources. So like, 2nd house can be about resources that are available to you, from usually your own, but they can be other people's. And 8th house are emotional resources that are available to you from other people, as well as money. The 2nd house, 8th house tends to be money first and foremost, and I tend to avoid talking about money. But then the sign of Capricorn is about, being respectful, behaving with dignity, being a leader, but the type of leader with long vision rather than the more immediate, go out and conquer type of vision, which is Aries. Capricorn is always going to want to conduct itself in a way that demands respect from other people, but also doesn't ever like to be embarrassed if it can avoid it. And then the opposing sign is Cancer, which, she's got Jupiter and the moon, and then also Chiron. So it's a really interesting combination. Jupiter moon people are notoriously hard to keep down if they are sad. But Cancer is one of the more in their feelings signs. So she's got this ability with all of this Capricorn to concretize this Cancer energy of being in your feelings and being really emotive and being somewhat whimsical. But also Cancer is literally a homey sign. It's about making yourself comfortable with and surrounding yourself with things that you love and people that you love and being pretty touchy-feely. They're opposites. They don't go together, but I would argue that her artistry and her work is actually about reconciling this split, because sometimes she's going to be the Cancer a lot of the time because the moon is involved in this, and then publicly she's this Capricorn figure. I think it's cool. I think that people with Saturn and Neptune conjunct in Capricorn do have a rough time making it in society in like quote unquote traditional ways. So artistry is really good for having this energy, and then she's probably a genius, right? Because she's got this Uranus Mercury conjunction, and then Jupiter is most directly opposing this Mercury. I'm just looking at numbers here, but I mean, you can't separate these things, but Jupiter's closer to Mercury than it is to Saturn, right? Which is at the end of, this is called a stellium. The traditional definition of stellium is more than 3 planets together, not including the sun and Mercury. So if Mercury's involved but not the sun, again, I don't know why I get so hung up on the definition of stellium, but people will see the sun and Mercury and Venus and go stellium, and technically, like, they're together pretty often. They're together now. So stellium is a clump of planets that are not usually found together like these. And this is something that was happening in the late 80s with Uranus and Neptune and Saturn all together. And so if you happen to be born during Capricorn times, you would have extra planets. Like the sun here is nearby and Venus here is nearby. But what was it? Earlier December, Venus is involved, and then later December, the sun is involved. I know. And then the same for 88 and 87, because specifically for the month of December, I've seen these charts quite a bit. But again, Taylor Swift has been able to reconcile this energy in a way that I think is really interesting and cool. So just something to bear in mind, because she's connecting deeply and emotionally and sharing that information with the masses, right? And she's doing it in a way that's like super determined with this Scorpio energy. And like, if you want to see examples of Taylor Swift behaving in Scorpionic ways, you can just look at her lyrics. Like, when she's dropping a new album, people are very interested in figuring out who she's talking about, and she likes creating puzzles for people. Like, we're seeing this on her world domination tour. I'm not going to stop calling it that. So that energy is present and obvious too. And then there's, I think, two outliers that I haven't talked about yet. So I bet you can guess what they are. But her sun is in Sagittarius and her Venus, and this is the one that I want to talk about the most, is in Aquarius. So Scorpio and Capricorn are friends. Scorpio and Cancer are friends because Scorpio's a water sign, Cancer's a water sign. They're not necessarily completely like-minded, but they share enough in common that you can reconcile it without falling all over yourself and, being... Cancer's probably not going to get grossed out by Scorpio the way that people without a lot of water energy just don't understand, why can't you put this down? Why are you so determined? Or for people who are not using the energy well, why are you so vindictive? Why are you're self-immolating in order to make a point? You do see that with Scorpio going in the wrong direction, let's put it that way. But then the Sagittarius sun is not connected to anything. It doesn't make aspects to other stuff in the chart. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't see anything. So the sun, or the creativity, sun is one of the main indicators of creativity. It's unbothered by the rest of it. So she can access this concretizing the Cancer energy, but she can also detach herself from it because the sun's not connected to anything. So she might feel like, this is my work, and some days I feel strongly and passionately about it, but other times I feel like I feel like I can be separate from it. I don't know. Then more on that note, this Aquarius Venus. And I haven't been doing this forever and ever and ever, just astrology generally, but let me tell you, in my experience of people who have a significant amount of Cancer energy, like sun or moon in Cancer, and then a significant amount of Aquarius energy, so in this case it's Venus, but the experiences that I've had are sun Cancer and moon Aquarius, or the reverse. The people who embody this energy, because remember, these are charts, these are people. It's not, you can't separate, oh, I'm going to do Venus and Aquarius now. Oh, then now I'm going to do sun and Cancer. People don't think like that. You just are what you are. But notice that Venus is at 1 degree of Aquarius and the moon is at 1 degree of Cancer, and this is called an inconjunct, where basically the needs of one item and the needs of the other item really have nothing to do with each other. They don't speak the same language. So the point that I'm trying to make with the Cancer Aquarius split is that this can seem really erratic to people who don't understand energy, because Venus in Aquarius sometimes likes to be shocking, and moon in Cancer likes to be homey and traditional and warm and snuggly. And so you might get into relationships that sometimes you want the one that feels comfortable and safe. That's Cancer. And sometimes you want to be shocking or be different or be really in your head and have the intellectual connection with someone, or get Aquarius as a fixed sign and a sign of extremes. Get into a relationship with someone really different, or just become fixated on someone and not be able to explain why. I've seen it. And arguably, I think that we globally have seen it if we're paying attention. So but Venus and the sun are the outliers. Like, if Venus were closer to the stellium, I don't think that she would have as much drive as she does. If the sun was closer, I think that she might be more involved with her ego in some of the professional output, to the point that might hamper her artistry. And so it's a perfect chart and it's working perfectly. It just has two items that phone home in weird ways and at weird intervals. And so I have more to say about her and her relationships. Actually, I don't have that much to say about her. I have more to say about her relationships. And I've been looking at the last three. I think they're really interesting. But so this is going to be a series. Probably I'll do another video on this, but I wanted to do this as a standalone because it's just interesting. So more to come, but that's the overview of Taylor Swift's energy. And when I talk about relationships, I'll also talk about transits, because there's what we're seeing right now. So, but I think just like relationship wise, the one other thing that I think is important, especially since she's female, is that the love indicators for females, so like meeting men in a woman's chart who's straight, and that's most of what I can speak to, although I can stretch it. Like I'm just not an expert in terms of homosexual or gender fluid types of relationships. I'm not sure what does what, but I can speak knowledgeably on heterosexual relationships, and I'm sorry if that makes me seem small-minded. But traditional astrology is like super traditional, and a lot of the time when people come in readings, they want to talk about their love lives. So I've talked a lot about them, and so I'm using that information to express this information. Meeting men, Mars is a good. Mars might be involved, or the sun. Stuff happening in your love life generally is gonna be Venus, but then also the moon. If your moon doesn't like someone, because the moon is where you are comfortable and warm and snuggly and safe, if your moon doesn't like someone, it's not gonna last. If you are in something just for the excitement, that would be a Venus and Aquarius thing for her. But the moon needs to find the person acceptable in order for your relationship to go the distance, if you don't want to be miserable. I guess I'll just add that. Like, there are people with challenged moons who are kind of used to being in relationships that don't serve them, and I think you might see that in not her chart particularly, I don't think, but if you already have a challenged moon, you might be able to tolerate somebody who doesn't make you feel warm and snuggly and safe, because that's not a thing that you've experienced. So I guess I'll add that caveat, like someone with Saturn on your moon might feel more comfortable to you if your moon is already screwed up, which is a point I've made passively before. But anyway, you need to find a long-term type of person acceptable, but it's something to reconcile within her chart, because this is a relationship signifier. This is a relationship signifier. They can't agree on what they want. That's really the point that I'm trying to make here. So she uses the moon for career stuff, right? She's got all of this drive. She can be somewhat detached, but it's a fiery sun, so detached yet determined. It's cool. This is a cool chart. I mean, and she's working her energy really well for what she's trying to do. And so it's working really well for her, I believe, at this stage of life. I mean, case in point is her world domination tour. But this is just a little bit of a tour, and I have more to say, and you know that you can count on me to say it, but thank you for watching. More soon.